What's going on? It's the RapNerd, and with the release of Lee Winnell's Wolfman over the weekend, I have been on my own werewolf marathon before the movie released and still afterwards. So I figured I'd do a list of my top 10 favorite werewolf films. Now, I released one back in 2021 and I rewatched that, and some things have changed for sure, because in this period of time, I've rewatched movies that I've seen like once but loved a lot but didn't remember, and new ones that came across my desk. Not to say that those are going to be in here, but I've just seen and rewatched a whole lot of them because I love werewolf films. I'm really liking the resurgence of the creature feature, because we've gotten a whole lot of vampire stuff, but I'm like, where's the werewolf love, man? And disclaimer, if these films don't suit your favorite or you think that they're out of order in any type of way, this is no disrespect to you and your list or your taste. This is just my list. So just gotta put my hands up because I know how social media can get when people don't agree. I'm not here for any crazy stuff, so just saying that now. So without further ado, let's go ahead and jump into it. Now, at the number 10, this film is probably gonna make some folks turn this off and be like, you don't know what you're talking about, you don't know cinema, blah, 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 blah. But it's my list, I don't care, and this film gives me so much enjoyment, and that is American Werewolf in Paris. Yes, the worst movie in the franchise. Like I said, I know this movie is not great by any means. There are a lot of issues with this film, including the dated CGI that looks really bad. But it's just so of the late 90s that it holds a place in my heart. I specifically remember that time period and just the fashion choices. Like one of the guys who is there with his friend in Paris, I mean, he is grunge punked out with the flannel, the Doc Martens, the band tee. Like during that period of time, that was such a staple fashion statement for everybody. It wasn't like it was just to that group. I remember wearing the same exact thing when I was a kid, hence why I love flannels. It's all because of the 90s. But honestly, this film is super duper campy, and I like the premise of what's going on in the film, where you have these scouts who kind of bring people to a party in Paris, all for the werewolves to feast on. So you know, when you have a group of people, all hell breaks loose, and I like that aspect of the film. Again, not great, but it just gives me so much entertainment every time I watch it, and I watch it every single year around this time of year, as a matter of fact, around Valentine's Day, because it does have to do with love in a sense. You know, the main guy is aimlessly chasing after this woman that he doesn't know is a werewolf until it's too late. So campy, fun, not great. At number 10 is American Werewolf in Paris. Now, continuing that 90s energy, at number 9 is Bad Moon. Now, this film gives me the same type of 90s feel that American Werewolf in Paris did, but the difference is this movie is actually pretty damn good. Again, the visual prowess of it, looking exactly like 90s films look, with that nice graininess and not a lot of saturation. And unlike American Werewolf in Paris, the practical effects here are on full effect. And once the transformation happens and we see the werewolf, that suit is done beautifully. Now, the really big thing about this movie that I like is the story, and it's very tragic. Not only is this guy going through stuff, but he gets attacked by an animal, and to try and seek help, he goes to his sister's house for refuge, only to be battling the transformation into a werewolf. And it's just really pulling on the heartstrings because of the relationship that he has with his sister and her son. You know, he's not like just some uncle that they never see. He is an uncle that is around quite a bit, and they have a fond relationship. So to see them have to go through the drama of survival with somebody that they know and love, and genuinely love at that, makes for a great story. And there are a lot of great moments in this film. And overall, I have fun with it because of those things. So at number 9 is Bad Moon. At the number 8 spot is a film called Howl, and I believe this might be on one of the free streamers. I haven't checked it, but I just know that I watched it on a free streamer a while ago when it first released. So the story follows these passengers on a train, and I believe it takes place in England somewhere over there. I'm not sure the exact date. I think it is London though, but they're on this train headed to a different town, and in the midst of travel, the train breaks down and they are attacked by a group of werewolves. So this is a survival story that takes place at one place, and this movie is great to me. I absolutely loved it and was entertained from start to finish, because the way that they are able to build tension of the werewolves on attack is so damn good, because they get stuck on this train and it doesn't just happen immediately. You know, it's like bumps in the night that you hear, and all of a sudden it does get revealed as werewolves. Now, this movie's pretty brutal, it's vicious, the violence and the kills are over the top. And I will say that they use CGI in this film, so if that does bother you, you might not like it as much as I did, but I feel like it worked well for what they were trying to do. Especially, there's one transformation when I really thought that those VFX made for a very creepy moment in the movie. But overall, I loved it. I do think it's worth watching. And there are a bunch of people on the train, so you know you're gonna get a lot of kills. So at the number 8 spot is Hal. At the number 7 spot is The Wolf of Snow Hollow. I absolutely love this film, man. It released in 2020, I think, and that was just a year of not knowing what the hell was going on. So it slipped under the radar, but I saw it either later that year or the next year when it released, and I've watched it every year since. It's a perfect winter film because it starts, I think, in December. It stretches all the way out until the new year. And with the title, you can imagine it's in a town that's full of snow and ice, so it's perfect for the winter season. So in this town called Snow Hollow, a wolf shows up and just starts murking people off, and it's up to the police to shut this creature down. What I love about the film is it is kind of a horror comedy, but it doesn't take everything comedically. There's just a lot of sarcasm going on and a lot of funny things being said that are very inappropriate, but still funny for the moment. And I love the twist that this movie provides because it flips the genre on its head. Now that twist is either gonna make people hate it or really like it. I've seen both sides of that coin with this film. So I'm just putting it out there right now that if you don't like the twist, this movie's not gonna work for you. But if you do like it, it's gonna work. So I advise, go ahead and give it a watch right now. I believe it is on Tubi or Amazon Prime, two things which I know most people have. So at the number 7 spot is The Wolf of Snow Hollow. Coming in at number 6 is Werewolves Within. This is a horror comedy whodunit type of film. And I absolutely love this movie since the day I saw it. I believe it released in 2021. And again, another one that's perfect for this time of year, especially with all of these winter storms happening on the East Coast. A sheriff moves to a new town to start his work as sheriff in that town. And as he's going around meeting people, not only does a storm knock out the power, but people start getting killed off by what looks to be a werewolf. And it's up to him and the rest of the town folk to figure out who it is so they can kill it. Now, unlike Snow Hollow, where that movie is more serious horror with comedy on the side, this one is 100% comedy forward with the horror on the side. So if you're not into horror comedies that operate like that, you might not like this one. But for me personally, all of the comedic aspects are ridiculously funny. There's not much in this film that I didn't find to be hilarious. So if you're down for a horror comedy that you can have a lot of laughs while watching, this is one for you. At the number 5 spot is Werewolf by Night. And I think that this is the best werewolf film in the past decade, honestly. I love this film, and I really, really hope Disney releases a steelbook for this movie because I don't care what the price is. I'm gonna buy it because I love it that much. It's a modernization of the classic Wolfman that we see in the old Wolfman film. It's got the same type of design. It's shot in black and white, and it is just fantastic. This is Michael Giacchino, excuse me if I pronounced that wrong. This is his directorial debut, and he absolutely crushed this. Not only did he direct it, but he scored it as well. And if you know about him as a composer, he don't really miss at all. So he brings in a fresh take on direction, matched with a great score. And this thing is action-packed, especially when the transformation happens with the Wolfman. It's just done so well. Like from the horror elements of the way they shoot things, to the choreography in general. Even before that, there's a lot of action in the film that you can sink your teeth into, and it involves some other monsters as well, which I found to be cool. And honestly, if they wanted to make a monsters universe, they should hire that guy to do it because he absolutely killed this movie. So great. So at the number 4 spot is The Wolfman. Always loved this movie, but I revisited it last week and I love it even more because of how great it is. Yes, there are some CGI things in here that some people probably won't like, and I've seen people kind of gripe about that, but I still think it's dope and it works well. This is a classic retelling of the original Wolfman. They keep the same type of design, and I just love everything about it. The visual aesthetic, the cinematography, the kills, the performances. It all feels of that time, but just shot in modern day to be brutal as hell. When this wolf goes on the onslaught, it is the greatest thing ever. One of my favorite scenes in this film is the courthouse transformation and just how crazy and bonkers that massacre gets. This movie's worth watching for that alone. I absolutely love how they did that sequence. It's an ensemble cast directed by Joe Johnston, and it just fits the time period perfect. He always kills stuff from that time period, and it's no different here. And ironically, I have not seen the director's cut. I need to watch that, but I think the version that hit theaters is a really good movie, and I absolutely love it. So at the number 4 spot is The Wolfman. Coming in at number 3 is Cursed. Again, this is a movie I know many don't like and it went through production hell, but God, I love this film. It is so of the time, and it was early 2000s, and I think it's just an excellently shot movie. I mean, Wes Craven is one of my favorite directors, and pretty much anything he does I love, I ain't gonna lie. Like, he has a touch on horror that I haven't seen anybody else display, and it's on display here with Werewolves. Love it. It does use CGI, but I think the VFX are okay for the time, and it doesn't take me out of it when I watch it. It stars Christina Ricci and Jesse Eisenberg, so it has this quirky, sarcastic level to it that I find to be very entertaining. I mean, come on, they have a werewolf giving somebody the bird. It doesn't get more campy than that. And honestly, sort of like American Werewolf in Paris, it just brings me a lot of entertainment and takes me back to that time period because I remember what it was like. I was in high school when this film released, and I always associate that time period with a certain look in film, and this film has it. And I always love when movies are able to have scenes with just a whole bunch of chaos amongst a bunch of people. It makes for such an entertaining watch when you can see groups of people get massacred and try and find their way out, and Cursed gives me that in the third act and takes it a step further beyond that once we leave that scenario. So at number 3 is Cursed. At the number 2 spot is Dog Soldiers. Man, this film is incredible. It's equal parts action as it is horror. All of the effects for the werewolves are practical. And on top of that, I talk about visual aesthetic a lot. This film is that on the next level. It's shot, I believe, in 35mm, and then it's cropped and blown up. So the grain is very, very heavy, and it just adds to the grittiness of the film. It's already raw, and you could tell that it was shot on a shoestring budget, but I feel like that adds to the believability, not a word, but I'm using it anyway, of the film. You're right here with these soldiers as they are under attack by werewolves, and it is just relentless in the way that the story is being told. I remember watching this on Sci-Fi the first time, and I was blown away. And it's been a werewolf staple of mine ever since then. So at the number 2 spot is Dog Soldiers. So at number 1 for me is Ginger Snaps. I think that this movie is great. I believe that it being a layered story to talk about the coming of age as well as fitting in some werewolf action is a chef's kiss, and it's written so well. But I love that they did that. It released in 2000, so it still has that late 90s vibe to it, with this visual aesthetic and just the way that people are dressing. If I could bet money, I didn't look, it probably was shot in 1999, so it's literally right there in regards to how film was at the time. And the thing I love about this film is it starts off very explosive, but it's a slow burn in how the story continues. But it works because there are so many great character moments with the two sisters. You really get a gist of how both of them are by themselves and how fond of relationship they even have, because one sister starts to act differently and you have the other sister who recognizes just how different it is, and she really sells the concern about her sister, and it just snowballs into a very explosive third act that is violent and tragic, that can pull on the heartstrings. As I mentioned before, it's a product of the late 90s, and I really love those films from that time. So that also gives me points, and the other points come from the fact that this film is full-on autumn, and the third act takes place on Halloween, so it's technically a Halloween movie as well, which also gets extra points for me, obviously. So at number 1 is Ginger Snaps. So those are my top 10 werewolf films. Let me know in the comments what are yours. Be respectful again. If you like this kind of content, make sure to like and subscribe, and if you already are subscribed, thank you, and until next time, peace. RapNerd Productions, no capping, that's word to mommy. Instead of banking on it, now rapping is just a hobby.